Howdy y'all, and welcome to episode 15 of the Barnyard Banter podcast, where boots meet microphones and agriculture takes center stage.
We're your hosts, Peyton Roberts
and Riley Rinke. We're members of the Axel FFA chapter, and we're on a mission to bring the ag industry to life. One story, one laugh, and one barnyard tale at a time.
Each episode, we'll be chatting with different farmers, ranchers, FFA members, ag teachers, and industry experts out there making a difference in the world of agriculture.
Whether you're hauling hay, feeding calves, planting crops, or simply just curious about where your food comes from, this podcast is for you.
So sit back, grab a sweet tea, or hop on the tractor as we take a dive into the wild, wonderful, and sometimes downright muddy world of agriculture. Welcome to Barnyard Banter.
First off, we would like to thank our amazing guests for joining us today as we take a dive into all things ag influencing. Payne, why don't you introduce our guest?
Of course. Today we are pleased to have Hallie Kate Jones on the podcast today. Hallie grew up showing cattle, being involved in the FFA, and competing in school sports. She never set out to become a content creator. She was simply a college student helping on her family's ranch and filming life as it happened. As a sixth-generation rancher and a Texas A&M agricultural business student, Hallie began sharing the real and raw moments of her everyday life. What started as casual videos eventually grew into a platform that not only educates and shares the realities of agriculture, but also encourages women to know that they don't have to fit a certain mold to run cattle or be a part of the agricultural industry. Thank you, Hallie, for coming on the podcast. For listeners who may not know you yet, how do you usually introduce yourself?
I like to describe myself as just a regular old college student who just happened to start posting on TikTok, and it turned into what it is today. So I pretty much just share my everyday life, farming and ranching, and then I throw a little bit of college content in there, and we make it work.
So kind of going back into your high school days, how are you involved in FFA?
So I was on the ag advocacy team for 6 years. And it's ironic considering that I started posting on social media. Whenever I started posting my agriculture content, obviously, I thought it was kind of crazy that I was on the ag advocacy team in high school, and now that's what I'm doing in my life now. And then I also was on the horse judging team, but that was more... I only did that for about a year or so because I also high school radioed, and I just felt like I wasn't able to put my full time into it. Honestly, if I could go back, I would put more time and effort into FFA because I feel like there's so many opportunities that get looked over.
So what was it like growing up, showing cattle, being involved in FFA, and balancing school sports all at the same time?
It was very busy, to say the least. My dad does not believe in having off days. And the cattle don't care if it's Christmas Day or your birthday. They have to be fed. They have to be taken care of. So during the weeks, I spent my time practicing for FFA, practicing for rodeo, volleyball, cheer, all the things. And then the weekends were full of either going to a high school rodeo or feeding cows. So pretty much never a dull moment.
Yeah, that's basically how my life's been too, just busy all the time. As a sixth-generation rancher, how did the legacy shape your outlook on agriculture?
I feel like it makes things a lot more important to you and a lot more sentimental. Like, as I've grown up and gotten out of high school, like, I'm very sentimental over things. And so, like, obviously, we farm and ranch on our land that's been in our family. It was deeded, I think the deed says, like, 1899, so well over 100 years. Obviously, we've purchased more land in that time, but I feel like if you're a first generation rancher and you buy 10 cows but you end up selling them, of course you're sad because it failed, but you know, you're not losing 100 years that your family put into this, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you've said that you never planned on becoming a content creator, so how did those everyday videos turn into something bigger?
So when I started, I mainly started because I just wanted to make money. I never thought that it would turn into having over 17,000 followers in 6 months because I only started this at the very end of May. And I never expected it to. Right when I was about to give up, I just started back to school. Like, my TikTok just took a huge dip, and I hadn't made it to 10,000 followers yet. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try one more time. You know, I'm about to give it up. And right when I was about to quit on it, overnight, a video blew up, and I went from 8,000 followers to 10,000 followers overnight. And I was like, okay, maybe I should stick with this. You know, maybe it's actually doing some good in the world.
So what made you decide to start showing the real and raw moments of ranch life instead of just the highlight moments?
I feel like I see so many people, you know, I follow ag content creators or whatever on TikTok, but I feel like it's all just the glamorous parts of life. You know, you see the pretty videos of the cattle, and nobody shows what it's really like. They don't show the atrocious barn outfits, or, you know, feeding hay with frozen net wrap, or cows getting down, you know, like they don't show the real life of it. I think that's an important thing for people to see, because they think, like with the food industry nowadays, like people don't value agriculture the way that they used to. And I'm like, you know, it really should be more appreciated, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So was there a moment when you realized your content was truly resonating with people, either in the ag industry or outside of it?
Yes and no. When I started posting like content of me cleaning the house. But once I started posting the ranching content, I gained 4,000 followers in a month, which it doesn't seem like a lot, but I grew from 200 followers to 5,000 followers in 1 month, you know? And so part of that may have been because it was me and my grandpa, and, you know, people were more so reminiscing on their past, but people, it's not shared enough, just like I said. So I feel like it let them see a part of the world that they otherwise probably wouldn't get to see.
What does your other family members, like your grandpa and your dad, think about the social media content that you produce about the ranching stuff? Do they like it? Are they all down for it? Or what are their opinions on it?
At first, they were kind of like, are you serious? Well, okay, at first they were like, yeah, that's great, but they really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And then I made it to 1,000 followers, and they were like, are you really going to stick with it? You know, they don't mind me recording what we're doing, but they just couldn't believe that people actually cared to see. And my grandpa, so I spent the whole summer with him, and we enjoyed every minute of it, but he at first did not want to be on camera. And then he kind of got used to it, and I think he's like me. He's very sentimental. He likes to share the word of agriculture. And so everybody kind of started to like it until my grandpa started getting recognized out in public. And then he was like, okay, I don't know about that. But he got over it after the first few times, and then it was fine.
How often do you get recognized, you or your grandpa? Is it super common?
It depends. Not really. Like, so a lot of people, I don't go anywhere, if I'm being honest. But like people that know me from outside of, you know, little old Groesbeck, whenever my grandpa goes other places, and they're like, wait, we see you on TikTok. He's like, oh my gosh, please don't say that. So it's more so him that gets recognized, because I do know a lot of people. But I have been recognized in one of my college classes. And that was a little bit embarrassing, because then everyone was staring at me.
I mean, it's a good and bad thing.
Yes, it's good, but...
Well, speaking of college, as a Texas A&M agricultural business student, how does what you're learning in class show up in real life on the ranch?
For starters, so last semester I took an ag policy class, and we learned about like different programs that the government has to assist ranchers. And there's so many programs that you wouldn't even believe. You know, there's so many things that can help cattle ranchers out, especially in Texas, like with the droughts. There's so many different programs. And so I learned about those things, and then I brought them home, which obviously some of them we may not qualify for, but it's nice to know about them and to be able to keep an eye on them. That's not something that like my grandparents or my dad would know about just from, you know, everyday life.
Yeah, Speaking of your college experience, are you involved in anything with like Farm Bureau or any types of clubs or anything, or do you just stick mostly to academics?
Pretty much just academics. Like I said earlier, I was so busy in high school, and when I graduated, I was like, I just want a break. Like, I just want to be able to go to school and enjoy my life. I was in the Texas Aggie Cattlewomen organization my first year, and then I ended up getting out of that just because I really don't know why. I just never renewed my membership. But it has been nice to just relax a little bit.
Which is completely, like, understandable. I mean, I feel like a lot of people undervalue how much pressure high school students go through, and then when they get to college, not being so involved in everything.
Yes, absolutely. There is a such thing as being burnt out, and I was just flat out burnt out on everything.
All right. How do you balance teaching people about ag while still staying authentic to your own life?
I feel like at this point in my life, like, I would love for social media to be my main source of income, but I'm still in school and I still value time with my family. You know, like, these people won't be here forever, and the way that the world is now, you never know what can happen. So, like, if I don't have time to film, or I don't have time to edit while, you know, no one's around, or while I'm not really doing anything, then I just won't post for a day. I'll skip a day and I'll reset the next day, because at first I was letting it completely consume my life. And I'm like, okay, we have to take a step back and find the happy medium.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I feel like a lot of social media influencers, once they get all into everything, it like just consumes their entire life, and they don't really have an outside life outside of that.
Yes, and I do not want my life to be like that.
So have you faced any moments where you felt underestimated, and how did you push through them?
I feel like anytime a woman is seen, like, in the agriculture industry, they're immediately, like, underestimated, which, don't get me wrong, men are faster, stronger, and probably all around better at it. But sometimes we as women make ourselves seem weak, you know? Like, I feel like a lot of women don't have faith in themselves. Because when I started posting my videos, the most comments I got was, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you're doing that by yourself. And I'm like, why? Like, women just don't have confidence in themselves to even try it, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it just blows their mind. I think if you have faith, you can do anything you want to do, and the doubts don't matter.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. So what does a normal day on the ranch actually look like to you?
Well, it's usually complete chaos, honestly. It is usually complete and utter chaos, because we try to keep the cattle on, like, a feeding schedule, especially during the winter when we're feeding hay. But the truth is, you truly never know what's going to happen. A cow could get out. We had a cow prolapse a couple weeks ago. A cow is sick. You know what I mean? You never know what's going to happen, and your only choice is to take care of it, rain, sleet, or snow, and figure it out. You know, a lot of things take a back seat to the cattle, because obviously they're a source of income for us, and you got to keep them alive. You can't afford to lose them.
So what are the hardest parts of ranch life that people don't always see online and on social media?
I feel like the hardest part of ranching, and it's still, like, I've been around 20 years, and it still kind of will get to you a little bit. Like, so when cattle get old, or even if they're not old, they can get down. Pretty much they just lay down and never get back up. Well, they're suffering the whole time they're laying there, you know? And I don't want to get too gory, but, you know, you don't want them to suffer. So you have to dispose of them. And that is, like, obviously I can't show that online. People aren't going to see that online, but, like, you don't want your cattle to suffer. And maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know, but I don't think that they should have to just sit there for days on end until the good Lord calls them home.
Yeah, that is, I think, one of the hardest parts about raising livestock that people don't usually realize happens.
They don't realize, like, that you actually have to take care of it sometimes, you know?
Yeah. More on the brighter side of things, what's one of your favorite parts of being involved in a family ranch?
I really like the family connection. Like, we don't have a hired hand that helps us whatsoever. It's my grandparents, me, and my dad, and my brother when he can, but he's also busy. Like, it's just amazing to me how much we can get done with just the four of us. Like, it's a lot of work, and trust me, we are busy, and we are usually up to our ears in stuff that needs to get done. But it's cool to see what we can accomplish. The only time we have a hired hand is we have 3 bigger places with a lot of cattle on them, and we hire people to come help us just because it would take us forever to get them worked. But other than that, it's just the four of us working together, and I feel like that's made us all very close, and I love that. I like having a close-knit family.
So what kind of messages or feedback from followers means the most to you on your different social media platforms?
I feel like the best feedback is like when I get questions from my followers, because it lets me know that I'm doing my job of spreading the word of agriculture, but also that my followers are paying attention and they enjoy my content enough to want to know more. Like, they see something that they're curious about and it makes them want to know more. So I feel like I'm doing my job. I'm not just wasting my time.
Do you have a favorite question that you've gotten on your TikTok?
No. A lot of times I just get questions about, like, the equipment that we use or what we give our calves whenever we work them and stuff like that. But I feel like that's also not something that's talked about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is there different ways that you handle criticism or misunderstanding from people outside of agriculture?
I'll say you definitely have to have thick skin. If you're going to get on social media, you have to have thick skin, and I will tell a story in just a second. But you also have to understand that some people are just flat out ugly. Mm-hmm. Everyone is raised different, and everybody does things different, and that's fine. But some people can't understand that. They just think that what you're doing is cruel. And, you know, I'm like, that's okay. You have your opinion. I have mine. They're watching a 1-minute video of my life. So I try not to get too upset about it, or like, I try not to let it get to me because, like I said, they're watching a 1-minute video. But somebody commented one day, I was talking about how I needed to start monetizing on TikTok, and I was like, I got to pay for college. You know, I'm trying to start my life and be comfortable. And the comment said, I don't know why you're worried about it. You'll be living on your family's land and your dad will be paying for everything. And that, like, at first it kind of bothered me because I'm like, that's absolutely not the truth at all. You know, like, I pay all of my tuition. I pay my rent. I pay all my bills in college. Granted, I had some scholarships, but it just was so crazy to me that somebody would watch a video that I posted and comment something like that.
Mm-hmm. Just flat out calling you, like, daddy's little girl and all these things.
Yes. Exactly. And I was like, you know, part of me wanted to comment back and be, like I said, just flat out ugly. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't even deserve the time of day. And you know what? My followers ended up jumping on that comment, and I was like, there you go.
They got their payback.
Yes. I'm like, I didn't even have to say anything.
So do you feel a responsibility now that you have a platform, why or why not, to, I guess, either post videos or advocate for agriculture, however you want to take it?
Yes and no. I don't want it to turn into something that I feel like puts an immense amount of pressure on me, you know? Like, my grandparents still tell me, they're like, are you sure you can post that? That might make some people mad. And, like, yes, I'm doing it for the pleasure of my followers, but at the same time, like, I enjoy it too. Like, I'm getting to document my life, and one day I'll look back on these videos and be thankful that I have them. And it's more of an enjoyment thing, you know, like I don't want it to put so much pressure on myself. I do feel a responsibility to post at least once a day, but I try to post 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'm not going to let it put too much pressure.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of what the future looks like for you, both in agriculture and beyond?
So this summer, my dad and I bought a set of calves. We only bought 10 because it was my first thing to own of my own. But I wanted to get some skin in the game, and just, obviously I have experience, but I've never had to put my own money up for cattle. And so I did get a head start there, but hopefully once I graduate from college in May, I want to move home and stay involved with our family ranch and hopefully have some of my own. But I'll also work a full-time job, just like my great-grandpa did, my grandpa did, and my dad now does. So that's kind of, I'll be looking for a job, but I also want to stay involved with the cattle.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So we have some quick-fire questions now. So they're like this or that. So they're more on the fun side. So Instagram or TikTok?
TikTok.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Polka dots or zebra stripes?
Zebra.
Dutch Bros or Seven Brew?
I've actually never had neither. I've never had either, but I feel like I would prefer Seven Brew.
Planned content or spontaneous posts?
Everything I do, I fly by the seat of my pants, so spontaneous.
Okay, it is now time for our ag report. Riley?
Valentine's Day may be over, but for flower growers, the work behind it doesn't stop when the bouquets are sold. The weeks leading up to the holiday were some of the busiest of the year, with growers carefully timing planting, greenhouse conditions, and harvest to meet the massive demand. From roses and tulips to mixed arrangements, millions of stems were grown, shipped, and sold in a short window of time. After the holiday, growers shift focus to recovery, evaluating sales, managing leftover inventory, and preparing for the next big floral season. So even after Valentine's Day passes, it's worth remembering the planning, precision, and agriculture work that went behind every flower. Flowers may fade, but the effort behind them doesn't. All right, Peyton, looking ahead, how can our listeners get involved or even suggest topics that they want to hear?
If you're looking to get involved with the Barnyard Banter podcast, you can follow us on our Instagram, YouTube, or, I forgot what the other thing was. Okay, start over.
Sorry. All right, Peyton, looking ahead, how can our listeners get involved or even suggest topics that they want to hear?
If you're looking to get involved with the Barnyard Banter podcast, you can follow us on our Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube pages at barnyard.banter.podcast. And if you want to suggest topics or potential guests you'd like to see, you can DM us on our Instagram page.
All right, Hallie Kay, we have 2 last questions. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone wanting to start some type of content creation, whether it's in the ag industry or not?
Honestly, no matter how hard you try to make your first video perfect, you will still be embarrassed when you look back on it 6 months later. So just post the video. If you even think you might be interested, post every day for a month and just see. Like, I've told so many people that they're like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, I don't know how I do it either. I just post it and don't look at it again. If people start commenting on it, then apparently it's not that bad, because there's something for somebody. Like, somebody out there will like what you're posting, and you just have to find those people. You have to keep posting until you find the circle of people that like what you post. At first, of course, it's embarrassing because nobody knows about you, but the more that you post, the more relevant you become, and then it'll just take off from there.
So how can our listeners get in contact with you if they have any questions? And also, how can they watch your videos?
So my handle on TikTok is HallieKate05. So you can look me up on there and go watch all my videos. If they want to get in touch with me, they can either DM me on TikTok or they can send me an email at allie.kate05@yahoo.com, and I will try to answer. Don't send me a sketchy question because I'll probably just delete it.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
We're excited about our upcoming episodes coming out on the first and third Mondays of every month.
Next on our podcast is someone advocating for agriculture.
Thanks for watching. Peace, love, ag.